This week in our history of everyday life in the 20th century, we look at the beliefs and fears of Essex people. A Question of Faith explores religious convictions and personal experiences, and also features those who are sceptical and non-believers. We hear about changes in forms of worship, the increase in personal spirituality, and New World religions.
We were a Catholic family. My father and mother were both Catholics. We went to a Catholic school. We always went to Mass on Sunday and on holidays of obligation. We always had fish on Friday. Our faith was taught to us at a Catholic school. We accepted it, we believed in it, and I still believe in it. It was an obligation to go to Mass on Sunday, but it wasn't that we didn't want to go. I mean, we did. We wanted to go. We used to enjoy the service. And I still go to Mass every Sunday, but I wouldn't miss Mass. If I miss Mass, I feel bad about it. Not because I've broken an obligation, because at my age, I mean, it's not strictly speaking an obligation, as any priest will tell you. But, I mean, going to Mass on Sunday for me is part of Sunday. And if I hadn't been, I don't enjoy Sunday half as much as I would have done. I accept the New Testament as being a historical record, and until somebody can prove to me that it wasn't, which nobody has yet. I mean, nobody has ever sort of proved that the Bible are a lot of baloney. And if they're historical records, I think what happened in the New Testament story is in itself a proof of the existence of Christ, with Jesus Christ, the Son of God. That's how I accept it, and I've no hesitation in accepting it. I don't condemn other people if they don't believe it. It's just the way I am, it's the way I've been brought up, and I've never had any reason to change it.
Well, I've always been a practicing Anglo-Catholic, which is a very high church. But it's never worried me that if I feel that I am in need of help, I will go to a synagogue if there is a synagogue available. I will go to a Catholic church. Even today, I still like, if I'm near a Catholic church, I will light candles for my dad, who is a Catholic. And I don't have to be a practicing Christian to say that I'm a Christian. And I don't have to go to church to say I'm a Christian, because some of the biggest heathens on earth go to church. We've got people today who go to church and they will put a bomb in a car and blow people to smithereens. They can murder somebody, maim somebody, and that's no crime. The crime is if they marry out of faith. I don't like the bigotry that some religions have got. Yes, and it did happen where I've seen men, dockers, who are hard as nails, quivering in their shoes when a priest of a certain religion sect has come along. And they're terrified. Mother Superiors. In the old days, I've got to say, I suppose, the Catholic Church, where they used to have what they call copper collections and silver collections. You had 3 copper collections, and then on a full Sunday you had to give silver, be it a threepenny bit or 6pence. Now, the Mother Superior, if the child's parents never give any money, the Mother Superior would take that child out and put them on the dais in the hall and say to a whole congregation of children, Charlie's mother and father are wicked, they never give any money to the church this week. Now you just imagine you're 7, 8 years old and you're put in front of a whole 300 or 400 children and you're told that your mother's wicked. That's what I've got against the religion. Not necessarily Catholics, Protestants, but that is wrong.
my upbringing was I had to go to Sunday school every Sunday. We used to have church services at assembly at school. And then when I went into forces, I had to go to church parade and religious education. So I suppose I was a believer. I was religious. And then during the war, a very kind of dramatic thing happened. I was in tanks, and we were in the Reichswald forest in Germany, and we'd been there almost all day without any action at all. And then one of my buddies said, "Oh hell, I'm going to make some tea." So that meant getting out of the tank, getting the large primer stove, putting it on the ground, and brewing up some tea. And he'd just got down when there was what we used to call a stonk. The Germans bombarded us with 88 shells, and we climbed down and we found this fellow had been quite badly wounded. He was in a prone position. He had hit the deck under the tank, but a piece of shrapnel had caught him on the spine. And in fact, I've met him since when we used to have reunion dinners, and he's still in the wheelchair. We then got him evacuated to the forward aid station, and we got back in the tank and all lit up another half a dozen fags, and we discussed it, and we felt so sorry for him. And I said, "Oh, bugger it, I'm going to finish making a cup of tea." So I jumped out, and I just got the primus going when there's another stonk. And I dived under the tank, and I'm actually trying to burrow into the earth. And all the time I'm saying, "Jesus," and all sorts of things like that, And then the stonk finished, and I climbed back in the tank, and I felt quite ashamed of myself, for blaspheming to God, And then I kind of thought, and I thought, well, wait a minute, why should I worry about this? Is there such a thing as a God? Because the Germans who fired their 88 at my colleague used to wear a belt, the Wehrmacht belt, that had "Gott mit uns" on it, God with us. Every time we went into battle, the padre used to give us a little service and said, "God is on your side, you are righteous." And there's every chance that the German commanders were saying, "God is on our side, you are doing a very good job, kill the English." It made me think quite seriously about religion, and had I just, as a very small child going to Sunday school, been brainwashed? And because of that, I became a serious atheist.
I think that one of the major factors of the 20th century, if one could make a grand claim, is a decline in general God consciousness, certainly since the Second War, in that it's become the acceptance to have no concept, never mind an experience of God. And therefore there would be no need for you to attend a formal religious service. But when I discovered reality for myself, that God was not pie in the sky, but a real person to whom you could relate on a personal level, I could see that they were so bereft of reality. I find it sad that people are not really looking for it in a conscious sense. I don't think that there is any difference in people's subconscious need for something to worship, because man is made a worshipping being. And that's the crux of the matter today, really. Man worships other things.
I believe in sort of a universal power, maybe a sort of godlike source, possibly not in the way Christians and other religious people see it. But I believe that there's some sort of force, outside force operating, more in a sort of spiritual sense than traditional religions might see it. I just think, I don't know, maybe we are all here for a reason. Quite what that reason is, I don't know. But I think it's more of a spiritual sense. I don't think you can just turn up at church on a Sunday, sing a few hymns, go home in the afternoon and pretend you're religious and you have some deep connection with God. I don't see it that way at all. I think it comes from within, and I don't think you need to be in a place of worship on a Sunday to emphasise it. I mean, I went to church when I was younger, then I became a bit of a sceptic, probably in my middle teens. But since then, yeah, it's definitely changed to a more philosophical, probably spiritual point of view.
I'm not a religious person. There is some divine power somewhere, but whether it's God or not, I don't know. When I see the cruelty in the world and the behaviour of people, I can't honestly say that there can be a God, because he wouldn't allow this to go on. I've always felt that way. As a kid, we were sent to Sunday school, and of course we had to go to church, and as a youth, we had to go to church to go to the local church club. Most of the time I went to sleep because I believed that the religious people, so-called parsons and things, they used to mix it too much with politics, which I disagree with. There is some divine power, I will agree, because what makes the flowers grow and what makes the birds live, I just don't understand it. But I don't think there is an actual God. I don't disagree with them believing in something. There is something there, but I can't explain what it is. We have been to churches of the various denominations, and we just, if it's a wedding or a christening or a funeral or whatever, we just accept it. We don't enthuse it at all because we're not interested.
They talk about agnostics. I mean, this is an insurance policy. You know, at the end, they'll believe. But they deny it all the time. You know, well, there's nothing in it, although maybe there may not be. But when it comes to the crunch, they'll believe. Now, atheists probably never will. But I don't think it's the people so much who are against the church as such. I think there are just too many other things to do, as far as they're concerned anyway. Sunday schools are now sparsely attended because they're taken out by their parents who are working like devils all the week. So they take them out on Sunday afternoon. But the people I blame most for the lack of attendance are these bishops and cardinals and all these sort of people who say the most stupid things, you know. There was no resurrection. Now, the whole thing's built on this. If there wasn't a resurrection, there's no Christianity, you know. But they actually say these things, you know, and you mustn't believe what it says in the Bible. You must interpret it the way I tell you. They don't say, no, it's wrong. They accept things because that's the way society goes. If society are doing it, the bishops will accept it in the long run, and it's wrong. If you've got the principles, you should stick with them. I wasn't a Christian, never had been. My wife was always a Christian. And she went to all sorts of churches before she came here. And I didn't have anything to do with it. I'd take her there and collect her, and that was it. You can say I believed in God like most people, although probably all of them would deny it. Believed him, but it never went any further than that. If somebody pressed me, do I believe, I'd say yes. But I didn't believe in churches and organised religion and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, when we came here, the first thing she did was go and look for a church, which she found. And the only one she wanted was the Pentecostal church, you know, the one that clap the hands and do that stuff. Then she was invited to the house of somebody round the corner here who was a Salvationist and used to go to the Salvation Army in Wickford. And they had what they call an outreach here. And she was taken with that, so she went to the Salvation Army. She said to me, I think it was 1989, it's Mother's Day, why don't you come, take me there and stay there? So I thought, well, I've never done her any favours as far as church goes, so I'll do one. So I went. And I thought, George, sit at the back. Keep your mouth shut. I mean, you can get out quickly and get home for match of the day or something like that. When I did walk in with her, they made a big fuss. And the speaker was excellent. And I was enthralled by this. I said, well, I'll come again. And I kept going then, you see, and I got wrapped up in it. As I say, things they wear you down. You know, the example she set. I wouldn't make any move until I was absolutely sure, and years went by, and it was only in 1992 when I said to her, what about becoming soldiers and wear a uniform? Well, she was over the moon. Yeah, I think that must have been really the happiest moment of her life, I think. So that's when she became a soldier. She wouldn't do anything unless I did it, so we did it in the end, and that was the end of that. And then we used to go down there 4 nights a week, I think. They had a singing group and a band. She used to play these timbrel things, you know. So we went down for that, and then there was Sunday. So that became our life, you know.
I was born a Buddhist. I come from a Buddhist country, but Buddhism is a philosophy, not a religion. It's a way of life, like it is with most other religions. We don't have to go to temple. We can, pray anywhere. It's basically following the 5 precepts and leading a good, clean life. Having said that, I've had an interest in Christianity for a long time, and in the past I've even read the Bible. I had lots of Christian friends, even priests and nuns in churches in Sri Lanka who we've known and helped at times. So it's nothing new, and I think the most moving thing for me was when I married Paul. We married in a little church in Chelmsford, and it was the most wonderful service, which I will always remember. It was very moving, the whole ceremony, and I think both Paul and I, we talk about it even now. That was 4.5 years ago, but we still talk about it, and I think it'll stay with us for the rest of our lives. I don't go to temples or anything like that. I haven't been to one in years now. The rest of my family who live in this country do. My sister particularly, she does. She goes to a Buddhist temple, and I go there sometimes if I'm there visiting her. That would be the only time I've sort of been. Paul's been with me as well, and he's been fascinated. But yeah, that's what I believe in. I think it's more important to live a good life and practice all of that you learn than actually, go to church or go to a temple all the time and then do horrible things to people.
And that's something you've passed down to your son?
Yes. He does Christianity at school. He does RE at school, and it's a subject, and it's up to him what he wants to be. I've given him the choice. When he grows up, he can either be a Christian or Buddhist. It's up to him. I think in this day and age, it's important that you don't force children into things, and that's how I've sort of approached it with him. And I've said to him, when you grow up and you learn about Buddhism and you learn about Christianity, you can decide what you want to be.
I've just been brought up in a way that I have certain beliefs in my religion, but not much because I don't actually know much about it. But it's when it comes to fasting and certain things like not eating pork and acting in certain ways. It's just, I do all those things. I'm not meant to go out that much. I'm meant to cover myself, and I'm meant to pray 5 times a day, stuff like that. I don't do that. I know a few people who completely cover themselves from head to toe, girls. They don't go out at all really. Just stay at home all the time and go to school, and that's it. And my closest friends, some of them are of different race, religion, whatever, so they do understand and everything. There is quite a huge crowd in Southend who are just Muslims, and they all look out for each other and everything. And it's I'm seen and known as being Muslim and being a part of them as well.
I was religious when I was younger, but just little things that happen, I just think it's naive to think that there can be somebody looking after you when such awful things happen. And I know religious people's argument always is, well, if you didn't have the bad things, you wouldn't appreciate the good things. But I don't really think that's true. I think it just makes you feel desperate, really, seeing such terrible things. And if you notice when people say, oh, I'm a born-again Christian or whatever, when they've made that decision, 9 times out of 10 it's when something awful's happened to their life and they've thought, oh no, there's nothing here for me. There's got to be some higher being and God will look after me and I'll be okay. I personally think it's a sign of weakness that you can't accept life as it is. You've got to go elsewhere. Crises I've had up till now, and I have felt low or whatever, I've thought, I just wish there was something that I knew would always protect me. And, for a mad second, I've sort of considered it, and no way. It just seems so naive. Maybe if I was brought up with a strong religious background, I might think differently. But I still think by this age, I would have realised myself that I thought it was just too far-fetched. I mean, when you look at the numbers of religions, how they all disagree, the number of wars and friction it causes in, all over the world, there's just no point. And how do you know that your religion is the right one? There's so many to choose from. It just seems ridiculous that you could possibly pick the right one. The whole thing seems so far-fetched to me.
You see, religion is either the biggest con that the world's ever known, because there's no in-betweens. You either got to accept it or you don't accept it. Now, if people don't accept it, that's fair enough. But they mustn't condemn the people who do accept it. And I'll tell you a story, and I had a round with a priest in a church, and I told him he ought to be ashamed of himself to wear his cloths. Now, my wife was taken into intensive care in Colchester Hospital on a drip for 12 days. And the doctor said, well, it's very, very serious, and I don't think your wife is going to pull through. And I got in my car, it was pouring a rain, and I prayed in the car, and I prayed bloody hard. I tell you, I prayed hard. I got home to this bungalow where I'm living now in Colchester, Essex, and I laid on the bed, and I tell you what, I was scared, because I thought I'd lost my wife. And I prayed again, and I saw Jesus Christ on a cross, in the room, not on a wall, suspended in space. And I said, if you're here to help me, will you reappear? And a couple of minutes later, the apparition, or whatever you like to call it, all I know is I saw Jesus Christ on the cross the second time. And I said, well, thanks very much. I know you're going to help me. And I went back to the hospital the next morning, and my wife was sitting up in bed. And yet the night before, she was given an hour to live. Now, is that a miracle? Is that faith? Is that something? I don't know. I can't explain it to you. And I was at a funeral, and I spoke to the priest, and he poo-pooed me. And that's when I told him he was sure to be ashamed of himself.
The funny thing is, before it happened, and people that you knew died, you were sad for a while, and that was it. You didn't realise what it meant. You know, people just don't until it happens, and you change. Your philosophy changes, your attitude to other people changes. Then you think you're going to top yourself, then you're going to commit suicide. Because I don't know if most people do, but I believe they do. If it's as traumatic as I found it, you think, no, this is useless. And you think about it, and then you think, yes, and you've got all the methods. You think of hose pipes on cars and paracetamol. You work out, I've still got now from the doctor, I get things like paracetamol, and he gives me 100 of them. And I think, right, and I put those away, and then I'll get another 100, and I put those away. So I've got a stock of these things that I can use at any time. And other than that, I never take tablets. So they're only there for a purpose if I ever need them. This is the way I was thinking. I cut a piece of hose up, and I made a little funnel thing to put over the exhaust, and I put the hose in that so it was all sort of airtight. And I thought that would do. And all these things you do, and you mean it, you know, you really think, next time I feel like this, that's what I'm going to do. And that happened to me. And then I started going back to the army after about a year. This leader, this woman up the road who was leading it, she had an idea what was going on in my mind anyway. And she said, in the night, she didn't come out with it baldly, she led round it, but the basis of it was that it's the unforgivable sin, see, to do that. And if you do, you never see bed again. So that's canned that, you see, you're stuck with it, aren't you? If you believe, you're stuck with it. I got to try and search the Bible. I said, prove it, show me where it says that in the Bible. So she did. And strangely enough, it was read out this week at the service. And I thought to myself, well, there you are, just as well I didn't. But mind you, I've still got the Aspro and the hose pipe, so you never know your luck.
What I'm going to tell you now, some people don't agree with, but I've, over the last few years, learnt about spiritualism and the code of the spiritualist and their church, and I think it's the true religion, the true faith. Now, if you're a Catholic or somebody or Jewish, that's so against all your beliefs, it's difficult to understand, but I've thought about it for many, many months, and to me it's a faith which, a thing I believe in, the afterlife and the spirit world. The thing that fascinated me was the phenomena that's attached to a seance and practices of the spiritualist church. I don't actually go to church, but I'm in a physical circle, and I've been to seances with very famous mediums And the phenomena is absolutely mind-boggling. It's just unbelievable. But that is what is the other side of life and the power that's there. But the healing side of it is wonderful. What can be done? That's my belief. I can't remember if I was baptised or not. I probably wasn't, but so there was no religion at all. Although I say that, my father must have been a bit religious, because I can always remember as a small boy, and I don't know why I asked him the question, but I said to him one day, where was Jesus was crucified? Where was that? And immediately he said Calvary, so he knew his Bible. So there was an aspect of religion with him, wasn't there? But other than that, there's nothing in my background at all.
I believe in God and have always done so. I never really saw anybody express any faith when I used to go to church. They just used to come in the door and sing the hymns and kneel down and get up when they were told and go out. But maybe that was just my perception of it. But now I think people are much more relaxed. I'm not a happy-clappy person, and I'd find that really, really hard if we go to church and something tends to happen that is a bit like that. I think, no, I can't really do that, because that's something that's ingrained in you. You can't really see it. But I think people are much more relaxed about how they express their faith. And if they feel the need to clap and jump around, well, they do. And that's quite nice. If they feel that that is right for them, nobody's going to stop them, at least not in our church. I don't know about others. It might still be a bit different. When I was at school, I would only have heard about the Church of England and probably the Roman Catholic Church, because the school I went to, the senior school, was Roman Catholic. My children know about, all sorts of different religions, Muslims and Jewish, and some of the ones that I consider to be strange that have come over from the States. More the cults, I would consider them to be cults, but other people would call them a religion. That is very different, and people have the option of going down that road if they want to.
When I was about 7, I started to go to a Church of England church in Colchester, and I was a choir boy, and I used to wear a ruff and a robe, and it used to sort of sing sacred songs which I didn't understand, and it was kind of a laugh, but obviously didn't mean anything to me. And then I stopped doing that, and I was quite relieved to give up my starched choir boy clothes, to be honest. And then when I was about 14, I started to get involved with some friends at school who were going to a local church, and that was an evangelical church which had a really different culture and a really different approach, to talking about religion, and that really attracted me. So I've experienced two different kinds of things. And I never had a strict religious upbringing. It's always been, something that I've drifted into myself and out of, in the case of singing in church choirs.
Lord, we lift up your name with hearts full of praise. Be exalted, O Lord my God. Glory to the King of Kings.
The services are really for different types of people, people with different lifestyles and interests. I mean, it's reflected in the music and just the way that things are done. So evangelical church services are less formal, and they're really good for families, and they attract younger people. And the Church of England services are more rigid. I don't want to generalise too much. And these are the kind of things that a lot of people, the traditional view of the church, when they think of the church, they think of a traditional and possibly boring church service, something that's irrelevant, a bit high and mighty, highbrow, and not very accessible. For a long time, I thought, that everyone should be in evangelical churches and that they were the only way ahead, that there should be drums and clapping, dancing in the aisles and things like that. But of course I would, when I was a teenager. I thought that was really the way ahead for everybody. But now I realise that the most important thing about religious belief is not how it's expressed in churches and the paraphernalia, whether it's Catholics with, incense and joss sticks and things, or whether it's evangelicals with clapping and dancing. I mean, that really doesn't matter at all. What matters is the beliefs that people have.
In part 15 of The Century Speaks, A Question of Faith, you heard the voices of Felix Owen, George Mooney, Ken Eastblake, Bernard Elkin, Ben Jarvis, Stan Peacock, George Curry, Vino Nixon, Sima Chowdhury, Laura Eaton, Philip Pusey, Joan Jocelyn and Richard Smith.